Well, blessed good morning to all of you. In regards to the singing this afternoon, I'm looking for a couple of volunteers that could help me collect songbooks and box those up and bring them to the garden club. And so I have a couple of boxes in the back. I'll try to, right after services, bring them in here. And if you can help me with that, I surely appreciate that. One of the things we're going to try to do is Hayden's going to lead us in our singing in some of those new songs this afternoon. We'll mix in some of the ones that are not so new to keep our pace going. But I think it's important, if we're going to start these new songs on Sunday morning for a month and then go off them, to keep that repetition. So he's agreed to do that, and we're looking forward to that. We're also looking forward to next Sunday. We have a special treat. Jeff Carr will be with us, and he's going to be preaching for us. And so we're excited about that. In fact, it will really be his last official thing he does in Florida, because that afternoon his family are getting their cars, their moving trucks, and they're heading to their new home in California. So it's been great to have the Carrs with us. I know it's not been an easy transition, but I really appreciate them and their Christian attitude, and I really appreciate the boys being willing to get up and to serve in our worship service. So we will miss you and hope you all the best, and indeed looking forward to hear Jeff next week. They also need some help moving, so if you're free Thursday or Friday, get with me or Jana, and they could definitely use your help packing their moving trucks. So appreciate that so much. So this morning we're going to talk about the subject of AI. And one might wonder, is that actually in the Bible? And it is. It's in the Bible. It shows you the advancedness of the Bible. Where is AI found? Well, it's found in Joshua. It's that city they couldn't defeat because Achan had taken the spoil. Pronounced Ai. Well, that's my attempt to soften a very difficult subject that might be with a little humor, and the key word there is little. We obviously are not going to talk about Ai, this city, but I thought it was interesting that long before we ever came up with artificial intelligence, we have a city in the Bible called AI. So what we want to do today is talk about what is AI, what it does, and more importantly, should Christians be using AI? It is a very relevant thing today. It is in our world. Many are using it. It continues to increase in its usage and popularity. And I understand as I talk about this, this is going to impact the membership here in many different ways. Some of you are going to be saying, what in the world are you talking about? Right? I'm going back to my paper newspaper, and I'm just going to stick with that, which is fine, right? Others are going to be like, well, I've heard about that, but I've never used it. Well, I don't even know how to use it. And then there are going to be some that are going to know a lot more about it than I do. And so there's a limitation as to what I can cover. I am by no means an expert in this technology and the knowledge of it, but I have used it, and I'm going to be presenting it from simply my usage, my experience, and the knowledge I have of it. But it's one of these sermons that are becoming more and more commonplace about how Christians use technology, because we're living in a fascinating time where there are not only technological advances, but advances, at least from my standpoint, I never thought I would ever see in my lifetime. I mean, we have cars, and I'm not trying to get into anything political here, but we have cars that can be used without ever going to a gas station. Those same cars, you will drive you to wherever you want to go, and you barely ever have to go on and touch the steering wheel there. I never thought I would ever see that in my day. What's next? The flying car? I'm not sure. But we live in a world where we are now have men and women that are living in space. We've been living in space for years without really any incident. We have human beings going to space just for the fun of it, right? A joyride into space. It's quite expensive, but I guess it's worth every penny you spend on it. And we have technology like AI that I never thought I would see in my day. Now, I would also say that over the last number of years, I've seen people, kind of strange people, talk about one day the robots are going to rise up and take over. And I kind of laugh at that and say, oh, that's kind of crazy. But the more I use this technology, the more I don't laugh as much. Because these robots are doing amazing things. And I don't know, maybe there's something to that. I'm not sure. But it's amazing to see what's being developed and things that they're working on now we don't even know of, but that are going to be introduced in some point in our days in the near future. Incredible. But it also can be very scary, can't it? Not knowing exactly what this new thing does or the extent of it can be very scary for us. I'm really worried as I look at this technology and how it's advancing. And I am by no means a prophet, but I really can see this as a technology that's going to take away jobs from human beings. It seems like it's developing that way and it's headed that way. You know, there's that movie Pixar, that movie WALL-E, right? It's really kind of about how technology took over and the humans have nothing to do. I didn't know that movie was so prophetic, but it might be one day. So we're going to talk a little bit about AI because it is amazing technology. It might be a little scary for us. But how should we use it, or should we use it to glorify God, and can we do that? So let's talk a little bit about what AI is really quickly. And then I'm going to sprinkle in from time to time some passages that even though the Bible doesn't talk about AI technology, because of course it wasn't around in biblical times and hasn't been around most of our days, there are principal passages we might call that I think speak well of it. Now, AI, there's many different versions of it. Google has a version of its AI technology. Microsoft has its AI. I don't care for it. I don't use it. The one that probably is the most popular and the one that I use is ChatGPT. And you might be like, well, what does that stand for? Well, it stands for Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Aren't you glad you asked? That just clears it up, right? So I don't think I'm going to use the actual definition. I'll just can use ChatGPT. So what is AI? AI is, you might think of it as a computer program, an AI app, something along those lines, where whether you use it on your phone or your tablet or your computer, you go and it waits for you to ask a question or to make a request. And so you ask this question and it's going to then search the internet and it's going to give you the best possible answer to your question or to your request. So in trying to find a definition of this, where did I go? I went to ChatGPT to see what it would tell me about itself, right? And so here is its definition. It actually gave me 3 definitions, a very technical one that's medium technical, and an easy one, and I think I used the easy one. Artificial intelligence is a tool, and I think that's a very important word. It's a tool created by humans. I think that's an important point. That uses data and mathematical rules, or what we might call algorithms, to perform tasks that resemble human thinking, such as learning, writing, analyzing, and problem solving. but without consciousness, a soul, or moral responsibility. And I think that's a good definition. May not be that clear if you haven't used AI before, but I want you to notice that it's being very fair and honest that it is not human being. Don't think of it as a human being. It has limitations. It doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have moral responsibility. And that's one thing I do appreciate about the technology, at least as far as I've seen it, I've used it. It's a very fair and balanced response to questions. The first passage I want to look at is Philippians chapter 4 and in verse 8. I think it's a good passage to tie in here, where Paul writes, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if anything worthy of praise, think about these things." So what are the things we think about? They're things that are around us, things we use, things that are part of our life. Well, can AI technology fit this definition that Paul gives? Absolutely. I believe it can. It can fit all of those things. But here's the key point of all this, not surprising to you, but can we use it in a way that it doesn't fit this? Absolutely, right? Like any technology or anything that we use in the world, we can use it for good. We can use it as a Christian. We can use it for the glory of God. But other people can choose to use it in a very sinful, a very destructive way. And it has the ability to be used that way also. So we want it to be used where it is true and honorable and right and pure, commendable. It has a good reputation. So what can it do? Well, it streamlines finding information and answers on the internet. So that's one of the key things. And when I use it almost every other day to ask it questions. And before, what would happen is you would go to something like Google and you put in a question or you try to find something and it would give you these websites. And then you go to these websites and you have to read through and you have to search and figure out, okay, that's helpful, that's not helpful, right? It takes some time. Well, what this does, it goes through all of that and it gives you an answer or possible answers to those questions. And it's been so useful in that way, saving time, giving good, I think, good, fair, balanced answers. Now, it also, you can make requests of it. It can create graphics, charts, pictures, videos, and more. And I'm going to show you some examples of how I've used this technology, even in my own work, in just a moment. And it's incredible what it can create as far as visual graphics, JPEGs, even videos. And I'm going to show you some of that. But here's the other side of it. People create videos and pictures that are not real, that are damaging, or are even sinful in themselves, depicting sin portrayed in this video, this picture, what have you. But you can make, with AI technology, you can make yourself or somebody be around very famous people that are no longer living. And you can bring them to life and you can act like they're your best friend. And if you knew how to use this technology, there's a lot of videos out there. They're just not true. And some of them are very, very deceptive. Some of them we know are not true and they're kind of funny, right? There's this video, and you see quite a few of them, where there's this baby who can talk like a human being, or like an adult, sorry. And there's a dog and a cat, and they have flour all over themselves. And in this video, mom comes home, and she says, "Who did this?" And the dog and cat point to the baby. Well, I know that's not real, but it's kind of funny, right? But some of these videos can be very misleading, very deceptive, painting a picture, trying to accuse someone of something that's not true, and it's unfortunate that this technology is used that way. It can create term papers, books, flyers, all sorts of things, bibliographies. Again, I have not used this enough to the extent of what it can be used for, right? Now, as I bring up this point, well, this might be something you've heard, right? That students can use this to do their homework. They can create term papers, research papers. That's not really their work. And obviously, that would not be an appropriate way to use this technology. But kind of going back to number one, it can help you, right? Remember when we were growing up and we had to do a paper? So what did we have to do? We had to have Mom drive us to the library, and sometimes that was hard. Sometimes she would drop us off and she says, I'll pick you up in 5 hours. Okay, you didn't have my mom, all right. And then you would have to do, let's say you're doing a paper on elephants, you go to the encyclopedia, you go to E, you open it up, and you look at and you read elephants, and you make notes, right? And then you get a book about it and you make notes, and very time consuming, and then you had to go home and you had to write it out. Well, at the very end of my high school days and in my college days, really more in my college days, I had a Commodore 64 computer. 64 bytes of memory. Wow. And I had a dot matrix printer. Remember those fun days? But it helped me to where I didn't have to write things out. But think about the technology today. You just go and on the internet and you can find all sorts of information on elephants to help you to be a tool to writing your term paper. Now, along these lines of the misuse of this, colleges have developed technology to where they can take your term paper into this technology and it will tell them if this was AI created. Colleges have rules now about the use of AI. Colleges have classes about how to properly use AI technology. Again, colleges recognize it can be a good tool, but it also can be a temptation to use it in a wrong way or even a sinful way. It can help you learn a language. It can teach you how to fix something, and on and on and on. It's really a neat tool. It's like a hammer. And that's the way we need to think about it. A very advanced hammer, right? Can Christians use a hammer? Well, depends on what you're using it for, right? It's a wonderful tool if you've got some nails that you've got to put into a wall, but it also has been used as a fatal weapon as well, right? Well, technology like this can be used in good ways or bad ways. So I want to just give you some examples real quick here. This is some charts I made for a gospel meeting I did last year, where I was asked to do a meeting about certain charges about the Bible, defending the Bible, answering those charges. And so I really wanted a very professional look to these charts. And so I went to ChatGPT and I asked it, will you make me a JPEG? And I want a Bible, I want a gavel, kind of like, defense, like a defense in a court of law. And I want something solid like a rock. And it created this picture for me, and I loved it. I thought, man, that pops, it looks great, it really fits with what I'm talking about, the defense of the Bible. But after I got this picture, I noticed something was wrong with it. So I told ChatGPT, can you fix this? Said, sure. Didn't fix it. So I told it again, can you change this? Kind of change it. Didn't fix it. And I present that to you because it's not 100%. It's not perfect. but I found it to be, for the most part, 98% of the time, really helpful, accurate, fair, balanced. So I really wanted to use this, so I had to fix it myself. Now, when I say that, now you kind of look and say, oh, I see something's kind of strange, right? Right? This little thing goes all the way across. No one really thought anything about it, but the reason I had to make that go all the way across is because it would not change this problem. Now, if you can't see it in the back, too bad. No, I'm kidding. What it says is roly-boly. It just would not say Holy Bible. So I said, enough is enough. There we go, fixed it. Sometimes you have to accommodate the technology. All right, pull out your roly-bolies. All right, then I also sometimes use it to make a flyer, but again, I wasn't pleased with the flyer it came out with. I did like the graphic, and it took a long time, so I finally just used the graphic, and then I made my own. I put the Bible in here, put this little tomorrow, but that's one of the great things is I can tell it, here's the information I need. Can you make me a flyer? This is what I want on the flyer. This is the color. This is the type of style I want. And then it just starts working, and I can go do something else. But sometimes I come back, and I have to fix some things or ask it to fix some things. So, again, it can help in these things, and I don't think I'm being lazy or anything. I don't think a majority of my job is to make flyers. In fact, it takes a lot of time away, or it gives me a lot of time back using this so I can do more important things. And then what I really like is they have these videos of what life was like in the Bible. And I try to use some of these in our Wednesday night culture class at the beginning class, and I put these videos of basically AI videos walking around the streets of Rome or Greece, what it was like, to give you a great visual. And what they do is they take, the ruins that are left, and that's kind of hard to envision sometimes, what it looked like with just ruins, and it just brings it out as what it might have looked at based on accurate information. Now, is it perfect? Is it 100%? That's what it looked? No. You have to understand that. But here's a video of a particular temple in Egypt, and I just really think it's neat to watch those videos and get a visual of what some of these ancient cities might have looked like. All right, Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 and 27. Then God said, let us make mankind in our image according to our likeness. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. And AI brought that out, right? I'm not a human being, but we are. And I think that's a good point, that we are God's creation. And God created us uniquely and specially, and we're special to him. And so never should the technology be put in place of mankind. It's a tool. It always should be a tool that's used properly. We also can look at Luke 16, verse 10. Luke chapter 16, verse 10. The one who is faithful in a very little thing is also faithful in much, and the one who is unrighteous in very little thing is also unrighteous in much. The point being made is this is a tool. We could use it as a good steward. We want to be faithful in the use of any technology or any tool or anything we do, but as we talk about AI, especially in this regard. And what will happen is our stewardship will blossom, and one day God will put us in charge of more. James chapter 1, verse 5. But if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all generously and without reproach, and it will be given to him. Our first place when we make this prayer to God is the Bible, right? But can God give us knowledge and wisdom from other sources as well, related to the Bible, accommodating? Absolutely, He can. Can AI technology be one of those? Yes, if used properly. And so God can give us wisdom of His Word, of His truth, even through these means. So what have you heard? Well, these are some things early on that I heard, that using AI is cheating. Well, as we talked about, it definitely can be used that way. It can be used to do your homework, if you want to put it that way, or to be lazy and try to do the work for you. But even in that, we know that it can be used without doing that. That it can be used in a positive way. That just because you're using AI doesn't mean that you're lazy, that you're trying to get it to do its work for you. Again, I know it sounds redundant. It's the proper use of this technology, as it would be for any type of tool that we would use. Maybe you've heard this, that AI does not give you good or accurate answers. I've heard that, but from my experience, I don't agree with that. And we're going to put that to the test in just a moment. Hard questions, biblical questions. And so, if you don't want to use this technology, that's fine, right? But let's be honest with it. Let's not just talk about things in a dishonest way that are not really true, especially if we haven't used it. Maybe you've heard this. The government is watching you with AI. Well, I don't think that's true, but maybe. But what we do need to recognize, and this is a whole nother lesson that I have, is that the whole technology of the internet is designed to see what you like and what you're looking at. And those cookies then tell that internet, that computer, that technology, send them more of that. Send them more of that. And that's why if you start looking at lawnmowers, guess what you're going to get? A whole bunch of lawnmower ads, right? Well, maybe that's a little bit of what we're thinking of. But hopefully today we can talk about this in a balanced and honest way. Psalm 20, verse 7. Some praise their chariots and some their horses, but we will praise the name of the Lord our God. The point that I see here is, again, let's not give too much credit to technology to where we're thinking it's higher than God or higher than man, right? We will praise God. And maybe this is a tool that will even help us in some way to do that. So can Christians use AI, and how? Well, I think we've answered that. It can be a very profitable if used correctly and morally. AI is a tool. You decide how you're going to use it, good or bad. AI does not mean that you're lazy or have a lack of faith, though it can be that way for some. AI can help you learn the Bible, but it should not be used as the final say on it. And in fact, I would prefer people use AI if they have some questions about the Bible, if they really need to, rather than what I often hear, and that is people going to YouTube. And sometimes people will come to me and say, I saw this video on YouTube, I have a question. And I just kind of cringe, right? Because YouTube doesn't quite have the technology, the filters, all of that. So you can put just about anything on YouTube, right, wrong, good, bad, so forth. But again, it should never be a substitute for our own good, in-depth study, investigation of the Bible. It's simply a tool. Colossians 2, verse 8. See to it that there is no one who takes you captive through philosophy, empty deception, in accordance with human tradition, in accordance with elementary principles of the world, rather than in accordance with Christ. Don't let technology take you captive, right? by giving you a misunderstanding of what its ability is, or to use it in the wrong way. So, can AI help you study, learn, or even teach the Bible? It can, again, if used properly. So, what I did is just to give you, if you're not familiar with this, the kind of answers you get. How many journeys did the Apostle Paul go on? That's what I asked it. Here's its answer. Traditionally, the Apostle Paul is said to have taken 3 missionary journeys with an additional journey to Rome that is sometimes counted separately. I think that's a good answer. I think that's a true answer. And then not only that, but then it went out to give the passages of the first journey, the second journey, the third journey, and the Roman journey, if you wanted that. Very quickly like that. All right, what about this? And I just try to come up with some questions randomly. How did people view Jesus in his day? Here's its answer. People viewed Jesus in different and often conflicting ways during his earthly ministry. Scripture shows that how someone saw Jesus revealed the condition of their heart. Again, I think that's an accurate answer to that question. It goes on to say some saw him as a teacher, a prophet, a miracle worker, a political freer, a Messiah, and then on a few more. But what about this? Do you need to be baptized to be saved? I've heard people say, oh, it's going to give you the politically correct answer. Well, let's find out. And again, I'll just qualify, this is ChatGPT. I didn't use any other source. And if you use another source and you think, well, that's not like that, then maybe you want to stop using that and come over. But here's the answer. Do you need to be baptized to be saved? Christians don't all agree. The answer depends on how one understands Scripture and salvation. Here are the main Christian views with key Bible passages. I left out the Bible passages for space. Faith only, normally necessary, and essential for salvation. Again, that's an accurate, truthful, fair, balanced answer. Now, you are not going to ask AI a question like that, and AI is going to tell you absolutely. Right? It's not going to teach you, New Testament Christianity. It's not programmed to do that. So you can't use it for that. And neither should you use it for that. But let's go one more before we close. Is homosexuality a sin? Again, it's not going to give you, if I could put it this way, the common Church of Christ answer. I'm not expecting it to. But is it going to give me a politically correct answer? Well, here's what it says. This is a deeply important, sensitive question, and Christians answer it differently depending on how they understand Scripture, sin, the message of Jesus. I'll lay out main Christian perspectives clearly and respectfully, and it does. From those that say it's okay to those that say it's a moral decision that's a sin. So, to me, it's got use to it. It's a great tool if used properly. And so let's close with 1 Thessalonians 5:21-22, which I really think speaks well of this by principle. Our scripture reading today, but examine everything, hold firmly to that which is good, abstain from every form of evil. That's a great principle when we're talking about the use of AI, technology, any type of tool. I know this lesson was a little different, but it's so relevant in our world today, I thought it was important to cover this and talk about it from the pulpit. But what is really important is something that AI will mention but won't tell you definitely, and that is that Jesus Christ died on the cross to save your soul. And maybe there's one here today that hasn't come to Jesus, hasn't become a Christian, hasn't followed that plan of salvation, hasn't been baptized. Or maybe there's someone that we can help pray with, encourage. If that's true, why don't you let us know as you come forward, meet me in the front, let us know as together we stand for your encouragement and sing.